Hi, let's see the landscapes formed by moving ice. It's a glacier. Ice, like water, moves and leaves behind a distinct landscape. It can be recognized in mountains and in high latitudes, that is, the regions which are much away from equator. They are covered with glaciers. So wherever you find the temperatures are below, precipitation falls as snow and evaporation rate is much lower, there you find snow accumulates into great mass of ice. This fresh fluffy snow becomes solid, compact and granular ice when it keeps lying on the ground for some times. So the pressure and refreezing of moisture converts snow into ice little by little, far below 0 degree temperature. When the air between the ice particles go out under overlying pressure, the snow, granular ice, becomes truly compact. So lying at the base of fresh snow, ice moves both under pressure and gravity. Such a flowing but slow moving river of solid ice is named as glacier. Now let's see the landforms which are formed by glacier. So in the board you can see crevasses, that is cracks developed by glacier as it flows on the slopes of the mountain. Glacier, the fastest agent of erosion. So the cracks developed by the flowing glacier along the mountain slope is called crevasses. Then you find cirques. Cirques are like these depressions formed by glacier. As and when they flow, what happens? They erode the rocky materials and make a pit. Your depression is formed. So on that depression in course of time filled with glacier. That glacier flows down, that becomes a source. And the sides of the cirque, it looks like armed chair. So it's armed chair formation. The formation which looks like armchair is called cirque. So the cirque, that low, it will be like a mountain is scooped out. So that much of erosive activity is done by glacier. Then you find hanging valleys, that is the tributaries. They come, they erode and suddenly they fall down. So such a region is called, such places are called hanging valley. The deposits which are carried, the sediments or rocky materials which are carried by the glacier are called moraines. So if they cut narrow and deeply, you find the V-shaped valley. If that V-shaped valley is deposited with more of moraines, and if it turns to be broader, then it becomes a U-shaped valley. Then you have a pyramidal peak, arete, sheeprock. Sheeprock is the glacier. What happens? It flows, it moves down the slopes in all directions. So the rock is eroded on one side, on the other side you find it will be looking like little it will have a gentle slope. So it looks like sheep, that is why it is called sheep rock. And the glaciers come down, and wherever the depressions are formed, there you find the lakes are formed. Once this the glacier comes below or touches the snow line. Snow line is the altitude at which the temperature is enough for the snow to change into water. So there you find the depressions are filled with water, that is called glaciated lakes. Then one more landform is esker. Now let's see in the these landforms in diagrammatic form. A valley glacier is not only a mass of ice but is loaded with rock material from top to bottom. This material is called a drift, boulder or boulder clay because it is heterogeneous and has boulders mixed with clay. They are unsorted and angular, unlike the rounded water-worn stones. Pure ice, like pure water, is least erosive, and rock debris supplies efficient erosive tools to the glacial ice scoring, scratching or plucking the rocks around. It is because of them that the rocks worked over by the ice get polished, and there are grooves and striation marks on their faces. As a result of an unequal movement of ice within a glacier, the top with least amount of friction moves much faster than the base. So the cracks marked on the glacier because of the splitting up of ice as a result of its unequal movement are known as crevasses. You can see this, the cracks. Crevasses are formed running from margins to the middle across the glacier. And many more crevasses are formed across the entire glacier where the slope of its bed, that is the floor of the valley, becomes suddenly steeper. So ice cannot keep pace with its faster movement, and the glacier breaks up into several blocks on such steeper slope. So here you find this on the steeper slope you find this kind of action takes place. So the crevasses in the direction of flows usually develop when a glacier becomes wide on leaving a narrow valley. Here you find the pyramidal peak. The rotational movement of ice. Large crevasses, you can find the continuous formation of crevasses which are called bergruns. So this is the erosive action, the hollow scoured out by abrasion and plucking. So this is because of thaw, freeze thaw and plucking. That is, this is a slope of the mountain. You can see that the side of the mountain affected. And here rock lip where the erosion is not as powerful. That is why you find this shape is not affected much. So such kind of shaped rock is called sheep mountain. This diagram explains much better. So here you find errate, the ridges formed by the glaciers, and core, the hollows. And later the hollows are covered with water, then turned to be lakes. Here you find the glaciers. This one you find Kori Lake filled by melt water and rainfall. So here you find the collection of water. Then they move down. That is what truncated spur. And here you find the debris, that is the materials brought by the glacier or deposited here, which is called terminal moraine. There are two glaciers bringing and depositing here, and you find hanging valley, a deep cut valley formed which flows down abruptly. And sometimes the V-shaped valley turns into broader at the bottom and becomes U-shaped valley. So these are the landforms formed by glacier and the mountain regions. In this picture we see a ridge, a sharp knife-like ridge formed by process of erosion and freeze-thaw weathering. So this is very challenging for mountain climbers. So they avoid this. So this is what meant by arid. So they are discussing, should we go up that ridge? Because it is very slippery, and there you find, this is what cirque. So there it is, they may fall into that, and that is a very risky spot for them, dangerous spot for them. Here we can find what we learnt, the landforms. So pyramidal peak you can find in this here. These are all glacial erosion. And here you can find number of arid, and here you can find the lake formed in the quarry, that hollow areas. Find here arids, so you can see the glaciers action of erosion in these pictures. You find different formations here, and how they flow down. So the glaciers flowing down.